The Silent Throne. A modern story of mastery for men. A fable for today's modern man. In the style of The Alchemist. By Jeremy Roadruck. This book represents the author's personal experiences and evolving opinions. Names, characters, places, and incidents are used for instructional and entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or deceased, is purely coincidental and intended solely for educational purposes. This book is licensed for individual use only. It may not be resold, shared, or redistributed without the author's express permission. If you did not purchase this book or receive it as an authorized gift, please purchase a personal copy to support the author's work. Thank you for respecting intellectual property. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025, Jeremy Roadruck. All rights reserved. No portion of this book may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form, including electronic or mechanical methods, without prior written permission from the author, except in the case of brief quotations used in critical reviews or educational contexts. Unauthorized scanning, uploading, or distribution of this book via the internet or other means is illegal and subject to prosecution. Please refrain from participating in or encouraging the piracy of copyrighted material. The publisher assumes no responsibility for third-party websites referenced in this work or their content. Disclaimer. This book presents ideas and strategies intended to encourage personal exploration and growth. It does not constitute professional advice, nor is it intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual condition. Readers are encouraged to use their best judgment and consult licensed professionals as needed, especially in cases involving significant personal challenges, relationship conflicts, or existential issues. If you are experiencing a mental or emotional crisis, please seek immediate support from a trusted professional or contact a licensed mental health provider. In the United States, you can reach free, confidential support 24/7 by calling 988. The concepts discussed here, particularly about behavior and belief systems, BS, are for reflection, exploration, and entertainment. Changing the stories we tell ourselves can often shift our perspectives and interactions, but individual results may vary. The author disclaims all liability for any outcomes resulting from the use or misuse of the material presented. If you have questions or concerns, please contact the author at https://linktr.ee/Jeremy Roadruck. Published by Roadruck Publishers Incorporated. Chapter 1. The Silence That Echoed. Jason hadn't heard his wife laugh in weeks. Not the polite chuckle she gave the kids, or the social mask she wore at dinner parties, but that real, full-bodied laugh that used to shake her shoulders and light up the room like sunrise through a frosted window. It was gone. So was the warmth in her eyes when he walked in the door. These days, it felt like he could be any man, or no man at all, just another body moving through the house, another sigh at the sink, another schedule to manage. Another man who built his kingdom, only to come home and find no one waiting at the gates. He stood in the kitchen now, staring at the sink she'd just finished rinsing. His plate was still on the table. The silence between them wasn't hostile. It was worse. It was indifferent. She didn't even look up as she passed him, towel over her shoulder. Just a quiet night, and then the soft tread of her feet up the stairs. And that was it. He'd closed million-dollar deals with less tension in the air. He'd negotiated contracts, led teams, flown first class around the world, and yet here, in his own home, he felt like a ghost. He wanted to say something. God, anything. But nothing came out. Instead, Jason sat down, elbows on the counter, running his hands through the same hair his daughter used to tug on when she was little. She used to ask him to tell her stories at bedtime. Now she just closed the door and asked for space. "What the hell happened to me?" he whispered. He hadn't cried in years. Not when his dad passed. Not when the economy tanked. Not when his back gave out last year and he had to learn how to move again without pain. But tonight, the weight wasn't in his spine, it was in his chest. and it crushed him in a way he didn't know how to resist. His eyes stung, but he blinked the tears back like a good soldier. He didn't have the luxury of falling apart. But something inside him, something primal, whispered, "You can't keep living like this." An unexpected message. The email came that night, long after the house had gone dark. He hadn't signed up for anything, not that he remembered, but the subject line read, "Your throne is waiting." Jason almost deleted it. But the preview line caught him. "There's a reason you're winning at work but losing at home. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Read this if you're tired of being alone in a house full of people." He clicked.
Reflection, your mirror moment. Where have you grown silent in your own home? What's one thing you're avoiding saying, that you know needs to be said? If your leadership at home matched your leadership at work, what would change first?
Chapter 2. The Weight of I'm Tired. 2 years ago, she used to touch him in the kitchen. Nothing dramatic. Just a hand on his back as she passed, a shoulder leaned into his, a kiss at the coffee pot, small, quiet signals that she saw him, felt him, wanted him. He didn't realize how much he missed it until he noticed it was gone. It started slowly. At first, she was just tired. Long days with the kids, new demands at work. Then she started going to bed earlier, without saying goodnight. They stopped eating dinner at the table. She stopped laughing at his jokes. Stopped reaching for his hand on the couch. Stopped looking him in the eye. But the moment that cracked something in him happened on a Tuesday. The kids were in the other room, yelling about something. He'd come home early, a rare move, a conscious one. He wanted to surprise her. To help. To reconnect. He stepped into the kitchen, holding a bottle of her favorite wine. She looked up, startled, like she hadn't even heard the door. "Oh. You're home." That was it. Not, "Hey babe." Not, "I missed you." Not even a smile. Just that one sentence, flat as drywall. Jason stood there, holding a bottle of red he now felt stupid for buying. He tried to play it off, made a joke about finally leaving work at a decent hour. She didn't laugh. She didn't say anything. She just turned back to the sink. That night, after the kids were asleep, he sat at the edge of their bed. She lay under the covers, foam blowing against her face. He cleared his throat. "Hey, are we okay?" She looked up, but not at him. Through him. And she said the 3 words that have haunted him ever since. "I'm just tired." Not "I'm fine." That would have been a lie, but at least it would have been familiar. "I'm just tired" hit different. Because it wasn't just her body that was tired. It was her hope. He asked if she wanted to talk. She said she didn't have the energy. He asked if she was upset. She said no. He asked if he'd done something wrong. She closed her eyes. That's when it happened, the moment he learned how to shut down his own voice in real time. Because nothing felt worse than asking for connection and getting nothing back but silence. The armor builds. After that, he got busy. Busier than ever, actually. He told himself he was being responsible, bringing in more clients, growing the team, expanding their future. But deep down, he knew what he was really doing. Hiding. From her eyes. From his kids' questions. From the mirror. And every time someone asked how things were at home. "We're fine." Same lie, different day. The pain underneath. Jason didn't know where he'd lost her. Maybe it was the year he traveled so much. That his son and daughter stopped waiting up. Maybe it was when he snapped at her during that fight about her mom. Maybe it was the version of him that shows up to solve things but never feels things. But wherever he lost her, he was starting to fear it was permanent. And worse, he wasn't even sure if he could find himself again. Boardroom king, bedroom ghost. Just last week, Jason closed the biggest deal of his career. 7 figures. He shook hands, cracked jokes, signed the contract, and posed for the team photo like a goddamn legend. Champagne popped. The room buzzed. His CFO said he was a freaking magician. He smiled, accepted the compliments, even gave a short off-the-cuff speech about leadership, perseverance, and playing the long game. They clapped. He felt nothing. Well, not nothing. Something. Something. Just not what he expected. There was no rush. No pride. Just a low, dull ache in his chest, like he'd won a marathon only to find out the finish line was in a different direction, that he'd run the wrong race. That night, he came home to a dark house. Everyone had already eaten. His wife had left a note on the fridge. Leftovers in the oven. Don't forget the science fair tomorrow. No congratulations. No proud of you. No hug, no kiss, no kids bouncing off the walls like they used to when they heard the garage door open. Just a quiet house, a cold meal, and a man sitting at his own dinner table wondering how he could feel so invisible in the home he paid for. He picked at the food. Scrolled his phone. Checked Slack. Reread the note on the fridge. Then he heard it. A laugh. Not hers. His daughter's, muffled through her bedroom door. TikTok or FaceTime, probably. He stared at the hallway for a long time. I built all this, for what, he thought. They don't even know who I am anymore. Back to the inbox. Hours later, Jason sat in the dim glow of his laptop. The house asleep again. His inbox blinked. That subject line flashing off and on, like a warning light. Your throne is waiting. He clicked it open. Hey Jason. I know we've never met. But I know a man like you. High-performing. Respected. Responsible. Winning the game, but quietly wondering if the game is even worth it. If this hits you, then it's time. There's a different kind of power waiting for you, the kind that doesn't burn you out, doesn't leave you cold at the dinner table, and doesn't disappear when the applause stops. It's not therapy. Not coaching. It's remembrance. Of the man you were before you built the walls. Of the king you were born to become. 1 hour. One conversation. One shot at something real. You don't have to keep sitting on a silent throne. Your move. JMR. Jason stared at the screen, heart pounding. He didn't know who JMR was. But for the first time in a long time, he felt seen. And that terrified him.
Reflection, your mirror moment. Where are you the most celebrated and still feel the most alone? What success have you chased, hoping it would fix something deeper? Are you sitting on a silent throne?
Chapter 3. The Invitation. Jason didn't sleep that night. He read the email 4 times. Hovered over the reply button. Closed the tab. Reopened it. Told himself it was probably just a marketing funnel. But something about it didn't feel automated. The message didn't pitch. It pierced. And somewhere between 2:17 and 2:22 a.m., he hit reply. Subject, your throne is waiting. I don't know who you are. But you're not wrong. I don't even know what I'd ask. I just know I'm tired of pretending. 1 hour, right? Let's talk. Jason. He hit send. And immediately wished he hadn't. The shame kicked in. The voice that said, "What are you doing? You're a grown man. A provider. You don't need help." But beneath that voice was the truth. He did need help. And for once, he wasn't going to bulldoze that need into silence. The call comes. The next morning, Jason expected nothing. Maybe a response in a few days. Maybe spam. Instead, the reply was already there before he even poured his coffee. Subject, your throne is waiting. Jason. You were never meant to carry it all alone. Let's not waste time pretending. I've cleared an hour. Today. Noon. Private link below. No scripts. No sales pitch. Just a real conversation with another man who's walked through the fire and lived to talk about it. Bring your truth. I'll bring mine. Let's see what's possible. Jeremy. There it was. A name. Jeremy. Jason stared at it. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had a real conversation with another man who didn't want something from him. He clicked the calendar link. One slot. 12 p.m. The King's Room, private session. He booked it. The resistance shows up. At 11:52, Jason almost canceled. He had 3 unread Slack messages. A calendar reminder for a quarterly review, and a perfectly good excuse to reschedule. But none of that mattered. Because what was at stake wasn't time, it was his soul. He closed Slack. Logged out of his email. Turned off his phone. He clicked the Zoom link. Black screen. Then a man appeared. Calm. Collected. Wearing a simple black t-shirt. No bookshelf staged behind him. Just presence. He looked like he was somewhere between early 40s and mid-50s, his dark brown beard streaked with lines of white, hair shaved close to his skull, piercing eyes. Jason, the man said, a large smiling transforming his face to something welcoming and warm. Hola, ¿cómo estás? When how? Been waiting for you. Jason raised an eyebrow. You always this dramatic? Jeremy chuckled. Only with men who've earned it. Jason smirked in spite of himself. All right then. Let's get into it. Jeremy nodded, folding his hands. So tell me, Jason, when did you first realize the throne was silent?
Reflection, your turn to respond. When was the last time you asked for help, and meant it? If someone said, "Tell me the truth just once," what would come out of your mouth? Are you ready to stop carrying the crown alone?
Chapter 4. The conversation that changed everything. The screen flickered. Jason's face went out of focus a moment, then sharpened. Guarded eyes, jaw tight, posture tense. Jeremy sat calmly, unmoved. There was no clipboard. No whiteboard. No sales pitch. Just a man willing to sit with another man and the tension most people run from. All right, Jason said, clearing his throat. So, what is this? Therapy for guys who don't want therapy. Jeremy smiled. Not therapy. Not coaching. Just a real conversation between men who are tired of the BS, the bullshit, or the unproductive belief systems. Jason nodded, once. Still wary. Okay then. You want the truth? Jeremy leaned in slightly, his smile softening. Always. Jason stared for a moment, then exhaled hard through his nose. I'm pissed off. Jeremy didn't flinch. Good. Keep going. I'm tired of being the guy who has to fix everything. At work, I'm the leader. The one with answers. But at home, I feel like a damn ghost. No one listens. No one cares. I walk in and it's like I'm already part of the furniture. He paused. Then his voice dropped an octave. And the worst part? I don't even know when it happened. Or how. Jeremy nodded slowly. That kind of erosion is quiet, man. It doesn't knock. It seeps. Jason looked away from the screen. His jaw clenched. I didn't sign up for this. Jeremy held the silence. You didn't sign up for what? Jason's voice cracked slightly. This, he gestured widely, sweeping the entire room. Life. Where I provide everything and still feel like it's not enough. Where I'm winning out there and losing where it matters most. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You want the truth? I resent the hell out of her sometimes. I bust my ass, and she just stares at me like I'm a failure. Like I'm the bad guy. And I'm done being the bad guy. Silence. Then Jeremy said the words that cracked the air wide open. Yeah. That makes sense. Jason blinked. What? I said it makes sense. You're angry. Of course you are. You've been holding up the walls of a castle that doesn't even feel like home anymore. You've been hemorrhaging blood in silence while pretending it's just a paper cut. Of course you're pissed. Jason's throat tightened. That wasn't the response he expected. Jeremy continued. And anger? It's not weakness. It's a signal. A flare from the soul that something sacred is under threat. Jason sat back. His voice was quieter now. So what am I supposed to do with it? Jeremy leaned in again. You listen to it. You trace it. Because underneath that anger is something softer. More dangerous. It's your heart, Jason. And that's what we're actually here for. Jason looked down. His hands curled into fists, then relaxed. I hate feeling like this. Weak. Exposed. Jeremy smiled gently. You're not weak. You're raw. And raw means real. That is where your power is. Jason shook his head slowly. But what if I say the wrong thing? What if I finally open up, and she just walks? Jeremy paused. Then he said, You've confused vulnerability with exposure. This isn't about laying yourself bare to be judged. This is about owning your experience without apology. He let that sink in. You've spent years reacting to life. It's time to respond. That's where your power lives. That's what I call responsibility, the ability to respond instead of just survive. Jason's brow furrowed. So what, I just take the blame? No, Jeremy said, steady. You take ownership. Blame is about the past. Ownership is about power, presence. About freedom. About getting your hands back on the wheel without white-knuckling it. Jason swallowed hard. I don't even know who I am anymore. Jeremy nodded. That's okay. Most men who come here feel that way. It doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're at the doorway. Jason looked up. What doorway? Jeremy's voice was calm. Grounded. Certain. The one between the man you've been pretending to be and the king you were born to become.
Reflection, the doorway moment. What part of you is still angry? And what scared part of you is that anger protecting? Where are you reacting in life, and what would it look like to respond instead? Can you take ownership without blame? Can you hold power without control?
Chapter 5. The Origin of Silence. Jeremy didn't rush him. Jason had gone quiet, shoulders slightly hunched, hands resting in his lap. It was the kind of silence that made most people uncomfortable. But Jeremy just waited, present, still. Finally, Jason spoke. Voice low. Hollow. You want to know when it started? Jeremy gave a single nod. Only if you're ready. Jason stared past the screen, not at Jeremy, but through him. Into a memory he hadn't visited in years. I was 8. The words were flat. My dad came home late one night. He'd been drinking. Not wasted, just mean. Mom was crying in the other room. I didn't know why, but I remember her voice. Tight. Afraid. Jason's jaw flexed. I walked into the living room and saw him shove her. He paused. Not hard. But hard enough that she hit the wall behind her. His throat caught. She didn't fall. But I collapsed, inside. Jeremy waited. I didn't cry. Not then. Not there. I just stood there, frozen. And then he looked at me. Eyes red. Like I wasn't even his kid. Just something in the way. Jason swallowed hard. I said nothing. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because somehow I knew if I spoke, if I moved wrong, I'd make it worse. So I just shut down. Jeremy's voice was quiet but clear. And what did you learn in that moment? Jason's eyes stayed locked on a point beyond the camera. Keep the peace. Don't provoke. Stay small. Stay quiet. Be useful. Don't need too much. Don't feel too much. His mouth twitched. And whatever you do, don't show weakness. Jeremy exhaled slowly. That's real, Jason. And, that night, 8-year-old, you made a vow. Not out loud. But in your bones. Jason nodded. Yeah. Jeremy leaned in. And you've been living by that vow. Inside that armor, ever since. Jason blinked. That's why the silence at home now hurts so much, Jeremy said. Because it doesn't just feel like distance. It feels like then. Like powerlessness. Like danger. Even though you're a grown man with his own house, his own family, your nervous system still thinks you're that 8-year-old, standing in the living room, trying not to break anything else. Jason covered his mouth with his hand. His voice was almost a whisper now. I thought I'd buried that sh*T. Jeremy shook his head gently. Like so many men, you didn't bury it. You built on top of it. Covered it. But it's still there until it's resolved. And then he said the line that would stay with Jason for the rest of his life. That armor didn't come from weakness. It came from love. From wanting to protect others. But now? That same armor is keeping you from being seen, being held, being heard, being loved. Jason sat with that. Silent. But for the first time, it wasn't the old silence. It was a new silence. The kind that follows truth. The kind that creates space for something new to be born.
Reflection, where it began. What vow did you make as a boy that you're still living by today? How did silence become your survival? And what is it costing you now? Are you ready to lay down the armor? Not to be weak or exposed, but to finally feel free.
Chapter 6. Without armor. Hours later, Jason sat in his parked car outside the house. The engine was off, but the weight in his chest idled like a slow hum. He stared at the front door. For years, he'd come home with two things. 1. Solutions. 2. Silence. If there was a problem, he'd fix it. If there wasn't, he'd keep his mouth shut and not make it worse. But tonight, he wasn't here to fix. He was here to speak. He didn't know exactly what he'd say, only that something inside him refused to play dead anymore. He stepped inside. The house was quiet. Not cold. Just holding its breath. He found her in the kitchen, unpacking groceries. No music. No kids around. Just the soft rustle of a paper bag. She didn't look up when he entered. Hey. Hey, he said, voice unsure. She kept working. He wanted to retreat. To say never mind. To make a joke. To fix it with performance. But instead, he stepped closer. I've been hiding, he said. She paused. She didn't look at him. But her hand stopped moving. He swallowed. I don't mean cheating or secrets. I mean me. Who I actually am. What I actually feel. Silence. He continued. I've been carrying around this armor. Ever since I was a kid. It helped me survive back then. But now it's choking everything I love. Now she looked up. He didn't wait for her to respond. This wasn't about a reaction from her. This was about the release and owning his truth. I know I come home and go quiet. Or try to solve things like a whiteboard. I know I've made it hard to feel close to me. I know you're not the enemy, I just didn't know how to stop feeling like I was under attack. She blinked. Slowly. And I'm not asking you to fix anything or change. I'm not even asking you to forgive anything. I wanted to start by saying something real. Without the armor. A breath. Long, deep. He shuddered as he exhaled. I don't want to be silent anymore. I won't want us to be silent with each other anymore. And then he waited. Not for applause. Not for agreement. Just to be. And in that space. That tender, dangerous space. He did something braver than any deal he'd ever closed. He told the truth without a shield. And she didn't say much. Not right away. But she nodded once. Then twice. And for the first time in months, they stood in the same room, and it didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like the possibility of the beginning of something. Phase 1. Nurture the boy. The work begins. Jason's next call with Jeremy opened with no agenda, no pleasantries. Just a simple question. Are you ready to meet the boy you've been protecting your whole life? Jason hesitated. I think so. Jeremy shook his head. Don't think. Decide. Cut off any other option but forward. Freedom is ahead of you, above you, inside you, not in the past. But keep dragging the past with you, and you'll drown. This first phase isn't about answers. It's about truth. And the truth is that boy inside you? He doesn't need to be managed. Tolerated. Suppressed. He needs to be seen. Be heard. Be felt. Be understood. Be accepted, good, bad, or sideways, and appreciated. And supported. Jason nodded slowly. So, Jeremy said, leaning back. Let's begin where all wounds begin. And the guilt, the shame, and the lies you learned to live. So that you could survive. Jason exhaled. Let's do it. Jeremy smiled. Onward, my king.
Reflection. When the armor cracks. What would happen if you spoke? Not to fix, but to feel. What part of you have you kept hidden, waiting for the right time to be real? Are you ready to stop protecting the boy inside you? And finally listen to him?
Chapter 7. The Ghost in the Mirror. There's a boy in you, Jeremy began. And he's been living in your blind spot for a long time. Jason sat still. Jeremy continued. He doesn't scream. He doesn't throw tantrums. He just waits. Quiet. Alone. Covered in dust behind the man you've become. Jason gave a small, bitter laugh. Sounds about right. Jeremy leaned forward, tone even. We all have one. The boy who was shamed for crying. Who got mocked for being too sensitive. Who learned that love came with conditions, and that being strong meant being silent. Jason felt something stir, that old familiar ache in his chest. Jeremy paused, then said, You're not broken, Jason. You're just still trying to earn the love you never felt safe receiving. Jason looked away from the screen. You ever notice how you can win at everything and still feel like a fraud? Jason's throat tightened. Every damn day. Jeremy nodded. That's not failure. That's guilt. Old guilt. From a wound you didn't cause, but still carry. The House of Echoes. Jason's breath slowed as the memory came back, uninvited. He was 12. Sitting at the kitchen table. Report card in front of him. All A's. Except one B+. His dad glanced at the page, then grunted. Guess math's not your thing, huh? Jason looked down. I thought I did good. His dad took a swig of beer, eyes still on the newspaper. Good isn't good enough. You want to coast through life, or do something with it. Jason said nothing. That night, he stayed up redoing problems from the test. 4 hours, no sleep. Just him, a calculator, and the dull ache of not being enough. The next morning, no one noticed. Not the effort. Not the circles under his eyes. Not the tear he'd wiped off the page when the numbers stopped making sense. That wasn't the only moment. But it was the one that cemented the story. If I'm not perfect, I'm a problem. If I speak up, I'll be judged. If I want love, I have to earn it. And that story never left. It followed him into boardrooms, into his marriage, into his role as a father. It didn't shout. It whispered. Don't mess up. Don't open up. Don't let anyone see the cracks. But now, staring into Jeremy's eyes through a screen, Jason felt something different. A crack. Not in his performance. In his prison. The metaphor of the mirror. Jeremy said softly, guilt is like a mirror in a dark room. You walk past it every day, feeling something off, but never stopping to look. Jason nodded. And shame? Jeremy continued. That's the fog. The story that says, if you see what's really there, you'll lose everything. But you don't lose everything, Jason said, voice dry. You just lose the lie. Jeremy smiled warmly. Exactly. There was a pause, thick, sacred. And then Jeremy added one last thing. You don't heal shame by hiding it. You heal shame by naming it. Out loud. In the presence of someone who won't look away. Jason felt the heat behind his eyes. Tomorrow, Jeremy said gently, we're going to do just that. Jason closed his eyes. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel afraid of the mirror. He felt ready to turn on the light.
Reflection. The ghost stories we inherit. What did you believe about yourself as a child, that you're still carrying as truth? Where did guilt first whisper, you're not enough? And when did you start believing it? Are you ready to meet the boy behind your armor and tell him the truth?
Chapter 8. The Naming Ritual. Jeremy's Zoom room was quiet. Jason had logged in early, for once. He didn't know why he wasn't in a rush. But something in him felt like showing up on time was part of the shift. Jeremy appeared, wearing a black hoodie this time. Casual. Present. You ready? He asked. Jason shrugged, then nodded. Yeah. I think so. Jeremy smiled. Good. Because today isn't about what you think. It's about what's still echoing through your nervous system. And getting honest enough to give it a name. Jason exhaled sharply through his nose. You said something yesterday I haven't stopped thinking about. Which part? That I didn't cause the wound, but I'm still carrying it. Jeremy nodded. That's where shame thrives, in confusion. In blame. In the silence between what happened and what we made it mean. He leaned in. So today, we name it. Not to relive it. But to relieve it, to release it. The process begins. Grab a piece of paper, Jeremy said. Jason picked up the black leather journal he'd kept closed for years. This exercise is simple. Not easy. But simple. Jeremy held up his hand. Step 1, write the moment you first remember. Feeling like something was wrong with you. Jason stared at the page. His pen hovered. Then it moved. 12 years old. Report card. The B+. The silence. The shame. Good, Jeremy said, as if reading his mind. Now beneath that moment, write the belief that got etched into you like a scar. Jason wrote. I'm only valuable when I'm perfect. Love is earned. Not given. His throat tightened. But he kept going. Step 2, write the behaviors, the games, that came out of that belief. Jason's pen scratched harder now. Overworking. Withdrawing when I feel judged. Trying to impress instead of connect. Not asking for help. Ever. Fixing instead of feeling. He paused. Then added one more. Thinking no one gives a damn what I feel, so why bother? His hand trembled slightly. Jeremy waited. When Jason looked up, Jeremy said, That story? That's shame. Dressed up in logic and wrapped in armor. And today, it ends. The naming moment. Step 3, Jeremy said. Now I want you to speak it. Jason blinked. Out loud? Jeremy nodded. Out loud. To someone who will not flinch. Jason's eyes welled. His throat burned. I feel like if I'm not impressive, I'm disposable. Jeremy met his gaze. Unwavering. Jason kept going. I act like I'm confident, but I'm afraid no one would stay if they knew how scared I really am. Tears now. I feel guilty for not being the man I thought I'd be, and ashamed for needing anything at all. Silence. Then Jason said the line he'd never spoken before. I've been more loyal to my pain than to my possibility. Jeremy breathed deep. Then, softly. And that, my man, is the turning point. That's when guilt becomes grief and grief becomes growth. Because you just named it. And once something is named, it can't haunt you the same way again. Jason wiped his eyes. Not with shame, but with release.
Reflection. Name the ghost. What moment taught you to hide your heart? What belief did you swallow that became a cage? Are you ready to say it out loud and let it go?
Chapter 9. Releasing the weight. Now that it has a name, Jeremy said, you get to choose what to do with it. Jason sat back, fingers laced behind his head, eyes red but focused. I feel lighter, he said quietly. Not fixed. Just like I'm not hiding from it anymore. Jeremy nodded. Exactly. Guilt lives in the dark. But now that we've brought it into the light, it's not in control, you are. Jason's lips parted to speak, but Jeremy held up a hand. Before we talk, we feel. I want you to sit with this part of you. The boy who made those beliefs. And talk to him. Jason raised an eyebrow. What? You've spent your whole life managing him. Ignoring him, overcompensating for him. Today, you acknowledge him. Like your father should have done. Jeremy leaned in. Close your eyes. Picture him. 12 years old. At that kitchen table with the B+ and the crushed spirit. Sit down beside him. Jason closed his eyes. His breath caught. His shoulders softened. The inner conversation. Jeremy guided him gently. Tell him what he needed to hear. Jason swallowed. Then spoke, voice raw. I'm sorry I disappeared on you. Jeremy nodded slowly. Keep going. I thought being strong meant pretending you didn't matter. That feelings made us weak. That needing love made us less. Jason's voice cracked. I was wrong. Tears welled again, but softer this time. You did your best. You were just a kid. You didn't need to be perfect. You just needed to be held. Told that I was proud of you as a dad. Silence. Then Jason whispered. You're not alone anymore. Integration, not erasure. Jeremy spoke next, voice calm. You're not trying to delete this past, Jason. You're changing your relationship to it. He leaned back, giving space. Guilt says, I messed up. Shame says, I am the mess. But truth says, I did the best I could with what I knew. And now I choose differently. Jason nodded slowly. And that's the difference between reacting and responding, Jeremy said. One's a reflex. The other's a choice. Jason opened his eyes, clearer now. I've been on autopilot so long I forgot I had options. Jeremy smiled. Welcome back to the driver's seat.
Reflection. Talk to the boy. What would the younger you say if he knew you were listening? What's the one thing he needed to hear, that you still haven't said? Can you choose compassion over perfection, and presence over performance?
Chapter 10. The ownership shift. Jason didn't want to talk at first. Not because he was angry, but because he was clear. For the first time in a long time, his inner world was in chaos. It was quiet. Not empty, still, like standing in the middle of a vast field just after a storm. Or like the surface of a deep lake as the ripples fade from a rock hitting the surface. And he wasn't in a rush to leave it. Jeremy respected that. They sat for a few moments, cameras on, but words absent. Then Jeremy broke the silence with something unexpected. You ever watch a man fall off a roof in slow motion? Jason blinked. What? Jeremy smiled faintly. I have. Training video. OSHA stuff. They slow the footage way down so you can see what caused the fall. Not just the impact, the moment he lost his footing. The moment that mattered. Jason tilted his head, intrigued. And what stood out? He asked. Jeremy leaned in. It's never the slip that breaks you. It's ignoring what led up to it. Well, Jeremy grinned, that sudden stop at the end is never gentle. Jason laughed and nodded slowly. So we rewind the tape? Exactly. We don't blame the man for falling. Everyone falls down from time to time. The wise learn from how he fell, so it doesn't happen again. The blame trap. I've spent years trying to figure out if this is my wife's fault, Jason said. If she's cold, disconnected, resentful. Or if it's mine. Jeremy nodded. That's the trap. Fault is past-focused. It leads to shame, defensiveness, and scorekeeping. He held up a finger. Ownership, on the other hand, is about power. It asks one question, what's mine to shift regardless of who started it? Jason exhaled. I like that. It doesn't feel like being blamed. It feels like freedom. Jeremy smiled. Because it is. When you stop trying to assign fault, you stop trying to win the fight and start trying to heal the wound. That's the doorway into fighting with your wife, together, for a more compelling future instead of fighting to be right, to be heard. The shift to responsibility. Jason paused. So how do I start responding instead of reacting? Jeremy grinned. First, you stop waiting for them to go first. Jason's brow lifted. Men in pain tend to keep score. She didn't say thank you. She didn't notice. She didn't ask. But leadership doesn't wait to be invited to initiate. Leadership responds. Even when it's inconvenient. And especially when it's undeserved. Jason nodded slowly. What if I screw it up? Jeremy shrugged. You will. They both laughed. Then Jeremy added. But now you'll screw it up from awareness. That turns so-called failure into my favorite thing, feedback. Feedback on exactly what not to do again, in the exact same way. And a man who owns that feedback with playful awareness and presence. Even when he falls short and gets feedback, he's as a man his family can trust again. One question that changes everything. Jeremy leaned forward again. Here's your work this week. Every time you feel pulled to blame her, the kids, yourself, I want you to ask this question. He held up one finger. What's mine to shift? Jason wrote it down. Not to take on everything. Not to play martyr. Just own what's yours. No more. No less. Jason nodded. That feels like a place to stand. Jeremy smiled. Exactly. And once you stand there long enough, everything else starts to shift around you.
Reflection. What's yours to shift? Where are you assigning fault and staying stuck? What pattern are you repeating because you've refused to take ownership of your response? What's one thing you can shift this week, regardless of what anyone else does?
Chapter 11. The game he didn't know he was playing. It hit Jason in the middle of the grocery store. He was standing in aisle 4, comparing 2 brands of almond milk for his daughter, when his wife texted him. Don't forget paper towels. No please. No emoji. No warmth. And for a split second, it ignited that old fire in his chest. He could already hear the voice in his head. I'm not your assistant. I run a company. I don't need to be micromanaged over paper towels. But then another voice surfaced, one that had been quiet for years but had started to wake up. What's mine to shift? He paused. The fire cooled. And he realized something. This wasn't about paper towels. It was about patterns. Marriage as a game board. Later that afternoon, Jason brought it up to Jeremy. Why does it always feel like she's trying to win? Like if I forget something, she scores a point. Jeremy smiled. Because without knowing it, you're doing the same thing. Jason furrowed his brow. Jeremy continued. Most men are stuck in a game they never agreed to play. It's called win/lose marriage. If she's right, I'm wrong. If she's upset, I must have failed. If I open up, she'll weaponize it. So what do? You compete. You defend. You keep score. And over time? Nobody wins. Jason let that sink in. So how do I flip the game? You shift from win/lose to win/win. The power of invitation. Let me guess, Jason said. That's not about being a yes, dear doormat. Jeremy shook his head. Nope. It's about being a leader. He continued. True masculine leadership isn't about dominance. It's about invitation. Consent is a beautiful thing. A man who creates win/win dynamics is a man who makes it safe to follow his lead. That doesn't mean giving in to her. It means including her, without losing yourself. Jason nodded slowly, as he let out a sigh. So what does that look like? Jeremy grinned. It looks like the one conversation framework. The one conversation framework. Jeremy held up 3 fingers. Step 1, start with shared reality. Speak what's happening without blame. Jason scribbled it down. Step 2, share your intent. What are you actually aiming to create? Jason nodded. Step 3, invite her perspective. Not as a challenge, but as part of the solution. He paused, letting it settle. Most men don't realize they're trying to win an argument that their wife never signed up for. But when you make it clear, hey, I want this to work for both of us, how do we create that? Walls start to drop. Jason smiled. That's good. That's really good. Jeremy leaned in. Because here's the secret, Jason's leadership isn't about control. It's about creating environments where trust can breathe. The new game begins. Later that night, Jason came home and saw his wife in the kitchen again, just like before. But this time, he didn't perform. He didn't freeze. He walked up to her and said, Hey, I've been thinking about how we handle stuff lately. I want us to be on the same side, not feel like we're competing. Can we figure this out together? She looked at him, surprised. Curious. Soft. And for the first time in a long time, she nodded. It wasn't a breakthrough. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. And sometimes, that's how new games begin. Not with fanfare, but with a quiet moment of invitation.
Reflection, change the game. Where are you unconsciously playing win-lose at home? What's one conversation where you could start with shared reality instead of defensiveness? How can you lead with invitation and make trust safe again?
Phase 2. Master the Man. Chapter 12. The Man in the Mirror. Jason stood in front of his bathroom mirror. Not shaving. Not brushing his teeth. Just standing. Staring. Noticing. It was something Jeremy had asked him to do that morning. Before you try to fix, to lead, to impress, I want you to look in the mirror for 60 seconds. Not at your skin. Not at your hairline. Not at your flaws. Look into your own eyes. And ask yourself, who am I when I'm not performing? Jason had chuckled when he read it. Now the question felt like a hammer against glass. The guilt had been named. The shame aired. The boy inside him held maybe for the first time in decades. But healing the boy wasn't the end. It was the invitation to become the man. Not the one who reacts. Not the one who performs. But the man who stands. It was time to master the man, and that started not with achievement, but with identity. The role collapse. He realized something standing there. He didn't know who he was without the roles. The labels. Husband. Father. CO. Provider. Protector. Every title he wore was about others, their needs, their demands, their opinions. And under all that, he wasn't sure. He wasn't even sure he liked himself or if he just liked being useful. Useful was safe. Useful got praised. Useful didn't get left. But what if he wasn't useful? What if he stopped performing? Who would still stay? The identity trap. Later that day, on the call, Jeremy didn't ask how he was doing. He asked, "Who did you pretend to be today?" Jason blinked. "What?" Jeremy clarified, not out of malice. Just out of habit. "Who did you perform as to be accepted?" Jason paused. Then answered. "The calm guy who has it all together. The leader who never wavers. The husband who doesn't need affection. The dad who always knows what to say." Jeremy nodded. "That's the identity trap." Jason tilted his head. "It's the loop where you become what others need. And forget what you need to feel alive. Then, over time, you don't just lose yourself. You resent everyone who doesn't see you." Jason let out a breath through his nose, blinking back tears at feeling truly seen and understood. "Yeah. Damn. That's me. The King's confidence formula." "Here's the shift," Jeremy said. "It's time to stop borrowing your identity from performance and build one from presence." He held up 4 fingers. 1. Self-validation. You know who you are, even when no one claps. 2. Clear mission. You know what you're building, not just what you're avoiding. 3. Emotional ownership. You feel your feelings, but they don't make your decisions for you. 4. Unshakable boundaries. You decide what gets in. You decide what stays out. Jason wrote them down in his journal. "This isn't about becoming someone new," Jeremy said. "It's about remembering who you were before life told you to be someone else." Jason looked back into the camera. Still raw. But steadier now. "I'm in," he said. Jeremy nodded. "Then welcome, my friend, to the man beneath the mask."
Reflection. Who are you when no one's watching? What roles do you perform daily? And which ones are slowly eroding your sense of self? Where are you still trying to earn your identity through performance or productivity? What would shift if you stopped trying to be useful and chose to be real?
Chapter 13. Home, but not really here. "Dad, are you even listening?" Jason looked up from his phone, startled. His daughter was standing in the doorway to his office, arms crossed, backpack sliding off one shoulder. Her eyes were a mix of hurt and irritation. "I asked you twice if you could help with my project." Jason blinked. The room came back into focus, the desk, the open laptop, the unread Slack messages, the buzzing silence. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I was just working," she said flatly. "I know." She turned and walked away before he could finish the sentence. And just like that, she was gone. Jason sat still, a lump rising in his throat. He was home. But he wasn't here. The presence deficit. Later that afternoon, he told Jeremy what happened. "I was there. I was literally in the house. But I wasn't really there, you know?" Jeremy nodded. "Proximity isn't presence." Jason rubbed his face. "I hate that she had to ask twice. Like I was some distant dude who couldn't be bothered. Because in that moment," Jeremy said, "you weren't her father. You were a task manager. A man near her, but not with her. Jason nodded. I'm tired of being a ghost in my own home. Jeremy leaned in. Then it's time to drop the noise and return to the now. The trap of distracted masculinity. Men today, Jeremy said, are constantly performing three things at once: solving a problem, escaping a feeling, and managing perception. Jason laughed through his nose. God, yeah. That's me, every damn day. But presence, Jeremy continued, is the moment you stop managing and start connecting. It's the one skill your wife craves, your kids notice, and your soul requires. Jason looked up. So how do I build it? The practice of now. Jeremy laid it out. 1. Kill the multitasking myth. Presence is singular. If you're with your family, be with them. One tab open at a time. One heart engaged. 2. Embrace the pause. Don't rush to respond. Don't fix. Don't redirect. Just listen without defense. 3. Feel the moment, don't flee it. That uncomfortable silence? That urge to check your phone? That's the old armor calling you. Stay here, anyway. 4. Reconnect with your body. Presence starts physical. Breathe. Plant your feet. Soften your face. Let them feel you arrived. Jason wrote each point down, slower this time, not just copying, but absorbing. He looked up. I think I've been home for years without ever really arriving. Jeremy nodded. So let this be your re-entry. The first real moment. After the call with Jeremy, Jason walked into his daughter's room. She was sketching something, earbuds in, sitting cross-legged on the carpet. He didn't say anything. He just sat down across from her. Quiet. Still. Present. After a minute, she looked up. Removed one earbud. Hey. Hey, Jason said. Want to show me what you're working on? She hesitated. Then turned her sketchpad toward him. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't miss the moment. He met it.
Reflection. Be where you are. Where in your life are you physically present, but emotionally absent? What distractions are you using to escape the discomfort of true connection? What would it look like to stop fixing and start feeling the moment instead?
Chapter 14. Power without the roar. Jason didn't raise his voice. Not this time. His son had just spilled a full glass of orange juice across the kitchen floor, a perfect arc of pulp and panic now soaking into his backpack. His body tensed, waiting on his dad's explosion. The old Jason, the one still carrying tight wires of control and invisible pressure, would have snapped. Come on, man. How many times have I told you? Pay attention. The look. The sigh. The frustration leaking out like steam. But this time, Jason took a breath. Not forced. Not performative. Just present. And from somewhere deeper than habit, he spoke. Dude, epic arc. Spills happen. It's okay. Let's clean it up together. His son looked up, waiting for the explosion. But it didn't come. Just a calm, steady father kneeling beside him with paper towels. The boy would have panicked. Later, Jason told Jeremy what happened. I didn't even think about it. I just responded. Jeremy smiled. That's the man. Not the boy. Jason nodded. The boy would have panicked. Tightened up. Tried to control the moment before he got judged. And the man? Jeremy asked. Jason smiled faintly. He just made space. Handled it. Jeremy leaned in. Exactly. That's the shift. Not just how you act, but who you are in the moment. He continued. The boy reacts to feel safe. The man responds to create safety. And the king? The king doesn't just create safety. He creates legacy. Jason's eyes lit up. He felt it. He wasn't just holding back his power. He was starting to own it. The 3 power leaks. Most men, Jeremy explained, have 3 places where they lose power. He held up 3 fingers. 1. Overreaction. They explode or shut down. Both are fear responses masquerading as strength. 2. Overcompensation. They try to prove they're in charge by dominating, not leading. 3. Overwhelm. They carry so much that power turns into pressure. And then leaks as resentment. Jason jotted them down. I've done all 3, he admitted. Jeremy nodded. Most men have. But now? You've got a different option. The king's energy shift. Jeremy continued. A man who's healed doesn't need to prove he's powerful. His calm is the power. He's the mountain, not the storm. The still water, not the crashing wave. Jason closed his eyes and breathed that in. Then opened them. I think I used to think strength meant being able to shut everyone down. Jeremy smiled gently. Now you know real strength means you can stay open. Without being overrun. Jason nodded. And in that moment, for the first time in his life, he didn't feel the need to brace for impact. He just was.
Reflection. How do you use power? Do you hold power in your presence? Or try to assert it with volume or withdrawal? Where are you still reacting from fear instead of responding from peace? What would it feel like to be the calm in your home instead of the chaos?
Chapter 15. The Cost of Becoming. It started with a dish. Not a big moment. Not a fight. Not a late-night argument fueled by months of neglect. Just a dish. Jason had finished rinsing his plate, drying it, and placing it in the rack quietly, intentionally, no expectation of applause. He turned to leave the kitchen when her voice came, sharp. Oh. So now you do the dishes? He froze. She didn't even look at him, just walked past, grabbing a mug. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Sarcastic. Resigned. Like his effort wasn't just too little, too late, it was insulting. Jason felt it, the heat rising in his neck, the man inside urging him to fire back. Seriously? I'm actually trying and now that's the problem? Why do I even bother? Nothing is ever enough for you. The boy wanted to retreat. The man wanted to defend. But something else showed up. Something new. The moment of choice. Jason took a breath and counted, internally. 1. 2. He turned and spoke. Not loud. Not cold. Not triggered. Just clear. You're right, he said. She blinked, surprised. What? You're right to be skeptical, he continued. I've given you every reason to doubt my changes. I've spent years tuning out, armoring up, reacting instead of leading. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came. Jason stepped closer, but not too close. I'm not doing the dishes because I want a cookie, he said, smiling faintly. I'm doing them because I'm building someone I respect. Someone I want to be with or without applause. He paused. And I get it. You're grown tired of having to push me. You're scared that without your pressure, I'll stop showing up. And I don't blame you for feeling that. He met her eyes. He didn't raise his voice to prove he was king. He just didn't leave the room. But I want you to know I'm not changing to avoid your pain. I'm making changes because I'm growing for myself. I want a new standard for me. He exhaled. And I like the man that's waking up. A crack in the wall. She didn't say anything right away. Just looked at him. Really looked. Then she nodded. Once, quickly. And walked past him without another word. But her shoulders, they were softer. Rounder. A bit smaller. Her armor was cracking. And it wasn't because he fought harder. Ha! It was because he finally stopped performing for her and started showing up as himself. The mirror returns. That night, Jason stood in the mirror again. But this time, it wasn't to question who he was. It was to recognize himself. The boy still lived in his eyes, but not as a wound. As a witness. That younger version of himself, finally safe enough to rest. And the man? The man was different now, too. He wasn't reacting. He wasn't controlling. He wasn't fixing. He was standing. Rooted. Certain. Not because everything was okay, but because he was okay. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, the king would rise.
Reflection, the point of no return. Where have you tried to change for approval and ended up resenting the people you were trying to please? Can you own your growth, even when it's misunderstood? Who are you becoming when no one is watching, thanking, or clapping?
Phase 3. Led like a king. Chapter 16. Jason had stood in the fires of shame, of silence, of truth. He'd chosen presence over perfection. He'd faced the part of him that once felt like a fraud. And he didn't run. But now, he stood at a new threshold. Because mastering the man wasn't the final step. Leading like a king was. And kings don't just show up strong. They lead with vision. They protect their kingdom. They give from overflow. And they build circles that last. The crown wasn't handed to him. It was forged in every moment he didn't flinch. Now, he would wear it. The king's eyes. Jeremy didn't say anything for the first full minute of their call. He just looked at Jason's, observing, not judging. Jason smiled first. What? Jeremy tilted his head, half grinning. You've got king eyes. Jason laughed. Is that a diagnosis or a compliment? Jeremy leaned back. It's the look a man gets when he stops reacting to life and starts seeing it. Jason nodded. Yeah. Something's different. The dust is settling. And what's beneath it? Jeremy asked. Jason exhaled. A man with a mission. Jeremy smiled. Then let's write it. The fog of reaction. Jeremy began. Most men live in reaction mode. They're not leading, they're dodging. Dodging judgment. Dodging discomfort. Dodging disconnection. Jason nodded. That was me for years. I wasn't building anything. Just managing chaos. Jeremy continued. Kings don't manage chaos. They create order. And order starts with vision. Jason sat up straighter. Let's get to it, he said. The Marriage and Fatherhood CEO Framework. Jeremy guided him through it. 1. Vision for love. What kind of connection do you want with your wife? What does devotion look like in your marriage 5 years from now? Jason wrote. We laugh again. We touch without tension. She looks at me like I'm her rock, not her burden. We don't manage each other. We partner. 2. Vision for fatherhood. What do your kids say about you when you're not in the room? Jason blinked. He shows up. He listens. I never had to compete for his attention. He made me feel safe, even when I messed up. 3. Vision for life and legacy. If everything fell apart tomorrow, what do you want to be remembered for? Jason swallowed. He turned the tide. He changed our family line. He loved us without needing to be perfect. He made it safe to follow a man again. The king's declaration. Jeremy looked at him. That's your vision. That's the throne you're building. Jason smiled. It feels solid. Like I can breathe into it. Jeremy added. Vision makes decisions easier. When you know where you're going, you stop negotiating with confusion. The king doesn't chase approval. He leads from clarity. Jason nodded. Anything else I need? Jeremy chuckled. Yeah. One more thing. Jason raised an eyebrow. You have to say it out loud. Vision doesn't live in your head. It lives in your voice. Speak your truth from your chest. Jason looked directly into the camera, cleared his throat, and said, I am a man worth following. I build love through presence. I lead with strength, not pressure. I protect what matters. And I will leave a legacy of connection, not control. Silence. Then Jeremy whispered, All hail the king.
Reflection. Lead with the end in mind. If your leadership stopped today, what would your family remember most about you? Where are you managing chaos instead of leading with vision? What declarations are you ready to make and live out?
Chapter 17. The Weight of the Walls. Jason used to think protection meant being ready to fight. Fix the car. Fortify the finances. Guard the perimeter. He was always on the lookout for the external threat. But not once had he considered that the real threat might come from inside the walls. The cold shoulder. The sharp tone. The eye roll. The silence. The flinch when he raised his voice even slightly. He remembered something Jeremy said early on, almost as a throwaway. She doesn't feel safe with your reactions. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're unpredictable. And that's when it clicked. It wasn't about violence. It was about volatility. She never knew which version of him was walking through the door. And so, she never let her guard down. Not because she didn't want to trust him, but because she couldn't. Redefining protection. Most men think protection is about control, Jeremy said. Jason nodded slowly. That's what I was taught. Lock the doors. Keep them close. Keep things tight. Jeremy smiled. That's prison. Not protection. Jason exhaled through his nose. Yeah. Jeremy leaned forward. A king doesn't hover. A king doesn't chase. A king doesn't police. He creates an environment so secure they can finally exhale. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. How do I do that? The guardrails of masculine leadership. Jeremy gave him 3. 1. Clarity. Say what you mean. Don't threaten. Don't hint. Say it clean and kind. 2. Consistency. The man you are at 9 a.m. is the man you are at 9 p.m. No mood swings. No walking on eggshells. 3. Calm correction. If something needs to shift, address it without power games. No lectures. No explosions. No withdrawal. Jason took it all in. It's not all that sexy, he said. Jeremy grinned. No. It's sacred. Protecting her heart. That night, his wife made a comment. Quick, sharp, tinged with defensiveness. Jason was mid-step toward the hallway when he heard it. Something small. Something about him forgetting to take the trash out. But the tone behind it? It was the same tone that used to spark an argument that lasted for days. The old Jason would have matched her tone, deflected, made a sarcastic joke. Or gone quiet and stonewalled her just to prove a point. But not tonight. Tonight, something in him paused. He heard something different in her voice, not venom. Fear. Fatigue. A weary, I shouldn't have to remind you layered over a deeper. Unspoken, I don't know if I can trust this change. He walked back in, gently touched her shoulder. She stiffened like her body expected a snap, a sigh, an argument. But then he said, I'm not here to fight you. I've fought you too many times. I just want to understand. If I missed something, tell me, I'll do my part. And then? He stood still. No fixing. No retreating. Just present. How she softened. At first, she didn't move. Didn't speak. She kept her hands busy adjusting the dish towel, straightening the already straight silverware. Classic deflection. But Jason noticed a shift. The way her jaw unclenched. The way her shoulders dropped half an inch. The way she didn't recoil from his hand on her shoulder. Didn't lean in either, but she didn't pull away. Then, she let out a breath she didn't even know she was holding. Soft. Shaky. She looked at him, really looked, for the first time in weeks. Her eyes didn't fill with tears. She didn't break down and fall into his arms. But her voice, when it came, was quieter. I just don't want to have to be the one holding everything together all the time. Jason nodded. You won't have to. Not anymore. That was it. Not a breakthrough. But a crack. And through that crack, trust began to breathe again.
Reflection. What would make her exhale? Can your wife drop her shoulders when you enter the room? Or does she still brace for impact? Have you confused being strong with being unshakable, even when you're unreachable? What signals are you sending that you're managing her or that you're with her?
Chapter 18. Give like the sun. The old way Jason gave was expensive. Not financially, emotionally. Every time he tried to show up, it came with invisible strings. Expectations. He brought home flowers, hoping they'd reset the tension. He bought the family trip, hoping it would cover the distance. He helped with the dishes, hoping it would earn her softness. He was always giving. But always calculating. What would this buy me? What will this fix? What will I finally get in return? The burnt offering. I thought giving more was the answer, Jason told Jeremy. But the more I gave, the more bitter I felt. Like no one appreciated it. Jeremy nodded. Because your giving wasn't love. It was leverage. Jason's stomach sank. Damn. Ouch, that's true. Jeremy didn't flinch. It's not a condemnation. It's a diagnosis. And the cure is simple, but rare. Jason leaned in. I'm listening. The solar shift. Jeremy smiled. You've been giving like a candle. Burning down to keep them warm. He paused. But kings give like the sun. Jason blinked. What's the difference? The candle needs to be seen, appreciated, protected. The sun shines because it is within its own nature to shine. It gives because it has. Because it is. Not because it's trying to get. Jason sat with that for a long moment before he spoke again. So how do I give like the sun? The 3 pillars of overflow. Jeremy gave him the framework. 1. Source yourself first. The king doesn't pour from emptiness. He fills himself daily through purpose, discipline, connection, solitude. 2. Give without scorekeeping. You offer what's true, not what's owed. If they don't receive it the way you hoped, you still stand firm. 3. Align generosity with vision. You give what builds the kingdom, not what buys temporary peace. Jason exhaled. I used to throw money and effort at the cracks in my marriage hoping something would hold. Jeremy smiled. Now you're building structures, not patching holes. The gift that meant everything. That weekend, Jason picked up a small notebook for his daughter. On the front, he wrote, For the things you think I wouldn't understand, but I want to. Leave it on my desk anytime. I'll always read it. She didn't say anything when he gave it to her. But 2 nights later, it was there on his desk, open. Page 1. 1 sentence. Thanks for listening to me now. That's when Jason truly felt it. The king gives, not to be thanked, but because it's who he is. The sun doesn't ask for applause. A safe place to miss. Later that week, Jason and his son were tossing the football in the yard. Nothing serious. No lecture. Just rhythm. His son missed a catch and groaned, Ugh. I suck at this. Jason's old instinct? Correct him. Motivate him. maybe even tease him a little. But Jason had learned better. He jogged over, handed the ball back gently, and said, "Hey, you're allowed to be off some days. You're still learning." His son looked up, surprised. Jason smiled. "And for the record, I used to drop everything. Especially when I was trying to prove something." His son smirked. "You?" Jason nodded. "Me. And I didn't have anyone telling me it was okay to mess up, just people expecting me to hide it." The boy nodded slowly, gripping the ball tighter. Jason clapped his shoulder once, firm and warm. "Mess up as much as you need. I've got you." And just like that, Jason gave his son what he never got, a man who could hold him, not just mold him. When she finally looked again, he showed up differently for his wife too. Not louder. Not better. Not with more presence. Just more fully present. Playful again. Respectful. Steady. She noticed. Not just what he did, but how he did it. And for the first time in a long time, he was giving from overflow, not from apology. He was becoming the sun in his home.
Reflection. Are you a candle or the sun? Where are you giving with invisible strings attached? What would it feel like to give from fullness, not from the fear of losing love? What needs to be restored in you before you can give to them?
Chapter 19. Build the circle. Jason had always thought leadership was lonely. He told himself he was the rock. The one they lean on. The last line of defense. But lately, that story wasn't just tired. It was costing him everything he said he was trying to protect. He was strong but disconnected. Wise but silent. Capable but unseen. And all of it was built around one unspoken rule. If I need help, I'm weak. But now, he saw the flaw in that old thinking, that old BS, that old belief system. He didn't need to be the rock. He needed to build a circle of men who knew how to lift it with him. The message. It started with a text. Jason said it to two other dads from school, guys he knew, respected, but had never really opened up with. "I've been doing some serious work on myself. Marriage, fatherhood, mindset. Would love to grab coffee and talk real stuff, if you're up for it." He expected silence. But both replied the same day. Michael replied, "Bro, same. Been struggling in silence. Let's talk." Eli wrote, "Thank you for saying it. I've been carrying a lot, and I didn't know how to bring it up." And just like that, something cracked open. Not just in Jason's world, but in theirs. The deeper pattern. On his next call with Jeremy, Jason brought it up. "I've always been surrounded by men, but never really seen by them. And I sure as hell never let them see me." Jeremy nodded. "Because the moment you feel vulnerable, that old pattern kicks into the one you built to keep the feminine pleased." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Jeremy smiled. "You learned to perform for women to avoid rejection. But you hid from men to avoid judgment." Jason let out a long, slow breath, repeating to himself, "I've spent my whole life earning the approval of women and avoiding the truth of men." Jeremy's tone softened. "And that's why your next level isn't more doing. It's deeper relating." The mirror of his daughter. That night, Jason walked past his daughter's room. She was sitting on her bed, headphones in, sketchbook open, hoodie up, eyes tired. He knocked gently. "Got a second?" She looked up, cautious but curious. "Yeah." He stepped in, sat on the floor like he used to when she was younger. "I've been working on something," he said. "About being a better man. A better dad. And I realized I never really asked what you need from me." She blinked. Caught off guard. "I mean, you're fine," she said quickly. "You don't have to." Jason shook his head. "I'm not looking for a pass. I'm looking for truth. She hesitated, then said quietly, sometimes it feels like you're trying really hard to fix things. But you don't really even try to see me. Jason nodded. That's fair. She continued. It means a lot when you show up. But it means even more when you ask what matters to me, instead of just guessing. Jason smiled. Okay. I hear that. What matters to you right now? She paused. Thought. Then said. That you don't stop doing this work once it gets hard again. That you don't go back to normal. Jason swallowed the lump in his throat. I won't, he said. I'm not doing this to get praise. I'm doing it because I like the man I'm becoming. She nodded. Then, she did something simple. Something sacred. She passed him the other half of her earbuds. And they sat there 2 generations listening to the same song. The circle is built. Jason didn't need a stage. He didn't need to start a movement. He just needed to stop hiding. To speak. To share. To sit in the fire with other men and say, me too. Let's build something real. And in doing so, he stopped being a lone wolf and started becoming a king with a circle.
Reflection. Your circle is waiting. Where have you been performing for approval, instead of leading from connection? What man in your life needs to hear the truth you're hiding? Where could you invite someone into your circle, instead of waiting for them to prove they belong?
Chapter 20. Live the Legacy. Jason stood in his garage. Not doing anything. Not fixing. Not escaping. Just standing there, holding an old box. Inside, notebooks, receipts, a broken watch, some Father's Day cards, and one of those crumpled worksheets from kindergarten that read, My daddy is strong because... He hadn't seen it in years. He read it again now. He carries me when I'm tired and makes bacon pancakes. No mention of money. No praise for perfection. Just presence. He closed the box. And smiled. Tears formed at the corner of his eyes, a mix of gratitude, regret, and joy. The real inheritance. I always thought legacy was about what I left behind, Jason said to Jeremy later that week. Jeremy nodded. And now? Now I see it's about what I leave alive in them, in us, and the way we do life together. Jason continued. I used to want my son to respect me. Now I want him to know how to respect himself. I used to want my daughter to admire me. Now I want her to trust herself when she's with a man and know the difference between safety and seduction. I used to want my wife to look at me like I was enough. Now I want to look at myself like I'm enough and share a life with her, not perform for one. I've realized that a man doesn't leave a throne. He lives in it, so others know how to rise to theirs. Jeremy smiled. That's the king's legacy. It doesn't echo through words. It echoes through who our families, the people we care about, become. From that day forward, each morning, Jason stood before the mirror not to check his face, but to decide how he'd wear the crown that day. The sun. Jason took his son fishing the following weekend. Not to teach him something. Just to be with him. There were fewer words this time. More silence. But it wasn't empty. It was sacred. At one point, his son asked, Hey Dad, did you ever mess up a lot when you were younger? Jason paused. Then said, All the time. His son looked at him. But now you're better? Jason shook his head gently. Not better. Growing. Every day. His son nodded. That was enough. The daughter. That same week, his daughter came into his office hoodie up, sketchbook in hand. She sat on the edge of his desk, handed him a page. It was a drawing of a lion. Underneath, in her handwriting. Still strong. Just doesn't need to roar. Jason blinked. His voice caught. What's this for? She shrugged. You. The wife. That night, after the kids were in bed, Jason walked into the kitchen. His wife was there still in her sweats, scrolling through something mindless, tired from the day. He sat across from her. Not expecting anything. Not planning a speech. Just present. She looked up after a moment and said, "You're different lately." Jason smiled. "Yeah." She tilted her head. But not in a way that feels fake. Just steady. He reached out, touched her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. And I'm not changing to prove anything. I'm just growing, becoming who I should have been all along." She held his gaze. Then she whispered, "I believe you." What she carried. She hadn't told him everything. Not the night she sat alone in the kitchen, watching a half-finished dinner go cold. Not the morning she practiced what she'd say if she had to leave or what she'd pack for the kids. She had never wanted to be the one who walked away. But she also never wanted to be the woman who stayed, slowly disappearing. So when Jason started to change, really change, it didn't feel safe at first. It felt dangerous. Because what if he stopped again? What if this version of the soft-spoken, steady-handed man was just another survival tactic? But the longer she watched, the less he performed. And the more he stayed. Not grand gestures. Not Instagram quotes. Not last-minute apologies. Just presence. Just peace. Just a man willing to stay in the room even when she bristled, even when she doubted, even when she didn't know how to believe again. And little by little, she started to believe anyway. The circle grows. That same week, Jason met up with the two men he texted. They sat outside a coffee shop. No agenda. No pretending. Just three dads with too many unread texts, too much pressure, and the shared ache of not quite knowing how to fix what was slipping away at home. One of them, Michael, leaned in. "So what changed for you, man? I've seen you in Carline, you're different." Jason sipped his coffee. "I stopped trying to fix everything. I started owning what was mine. And I realized leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a space they trust." The other guy, Eli, nodded. "Sounds simple. But not easy." Jason smiled. "Exactly. But it's worth it. Every hard conversation. Every time I stayed instead of shutting down. It's like I stopped burning out trying to please everyone and started shining for real." The men were quiet for a moment. Then Michael said, "All right. Let's do this again." Jason nodded. The kingdom was growing not just at home, but everywhere he chose to lead with presence.
Reflection. What will echo when you're gone? Are you building a legacy that lives in things? Or in how people feel when they're around you? What are your children learning about love, leadership, and self-respect from watching you be? Not just from what you say. What would shift if your family could trust your presence more than your promises?
Chapter 21. The Silent Throne, Reclaimed. Jason stood in the doorway of his living room. Same floorboards. Same photos. Same couch where he used to scroll his way through Sunday afternoons. But everything felt different. Not louder. Deeper. He walked in. Sat down. Hands on his knees. Spine straight. Nothing forced. His wife was in the kitchen, humming to herself. His daughter passed by, earbuds in, gave him a nod. His son shouted from upstairs about a missing shoe. No drama. No tension. Just life. And he was in it. Fully in it. Not managing it. Not escaping it. Leading it. Every time he chose to stay. To breathe, to feel. To step in, to step up. He felt the throne grow sturdier beneath him. The throne was never empty. For years, Jason thought the throne was silent because something was missing. He thought he didn't have what it took. that he had to perform, prove, or perfect himself into a man worth following. But the truth? The throne was never empty. It was just waiting for someone willing to sit down and lead without needing to be liked. To lead without fear of being rejected. To lead with love, strength, vision, and no apology. His kingdom responded. The shift wasn't dramatic. His wife didn't throw her arms around him in some movie moment. His daughter didn't suddenly tell him he was the best dad in the world. His son didn't start quoting him like a guru. But something changed. They listened when he spoke. They laughed a little more. They leaned in. Because he wasn't just there. He was present. He wasn't just consistent. He was clear. He wasn't just trying. He was leading. And in that leadership, quiet, grounded, real, his family began to trust him again. And so he wrote. One morning, weeks later, Jason sat with a cup of coffee and a pen. He opened a new notebook, not for business plans or to-do lists, but for a letter. A note to a man like he used to be. If you're reading this, it means something inside you woke up. Maybe it's just a whisper. Maybe it's a scream. But either way, you're not crazy. You're not broken. And you're not alone. The silent throne you've been sitting on? It's not a punishment. It's an invitation. To come home. To stand tall. To become the man you were always meant to be. Before fear, guilt, and silence convinced you otherwise. The work won't be easy. But it will be worth it. Start here. Keep going. Your kingdom is waiting. The silent throne, reclaimed. His wife called from the kitchen softly, not sharply. Dinner's ready. Not a demand. An invitation. His son came bounding down the stairs, yelling about some YouTube idea he wanted to try. His daughter rolled her eyes, but grinned as she passed him a sketch. What was on the page? A simple throne. And written underneath in her messy, unmistakable handwriting. Not silent anymore. Jason smiled. Same house. Same man. But this time, the throne wasn't a place he sat, isolated and quiet. It was a kingdom he led, alive, connected, and breathing. The throne was never meant to silence him. It was meant to remind him of who he was. So he could lead with love. Reflection, your throne is not empty. Where have you been waiting for permission to lead when your soul's already ready? What would shift if you trusted your presence more than your performance? Are you willing to claim the throne, not to rule others, but to lead yourself?
Shield, the next chapter begins with you. Your throne isn't waiting at the end of a book. It's built in how you lead, how you love, how you show up, especially when no one's watching. Jason's story was a mirror for you to more clearly see yourself. If you're ready to stop performing and start leading. If you're ready to turn silent sacrifice into powerful presence. If you're ready to go deeper, to master your marriage, to create unshakable emotional leadership, and to leave a legacy your family feels every single day, then it's time. Your next chapter is here. Backhand index pointing right, grab your copy of Led Like a King. The Roadmap to Mastering Marriage, Deeper Connection, and Unstoppable Leadership. Backhand index pointing right, https://www.leadlikeyking.com/roadmap. It's not for men chasing hacks. It's for men building kingdoms. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs your leadership. The throne is yours.
The end of Jason's story. And maybe the start of your own. Ready to lead like a king? You've read Jason's story. Maybe you saw pieces of yourself in him, the pressure to perform, the guilt of showing up too late, the silence in your own home. Maybe, like him, you've spent years building success in business. But quietly wondering why connection at home feels so fragile. Or maybe you're already doing better, but deep down, you know it's not sustainable. Because you're still reacting, still apologizing, still pretending. What if you didn't have to perform anymore? What if you could lead with calm authority? Reconnect with your wife without walking on eggshells. And become the man your kids feel safe around, seen by, and proud of? That's what Lead Like a King, the roadmap to mastering marriage, deeper connection, and unstoppable leadership is here to deliver. This book is for you if you're successful on paper, but secretly disconnected at home. You feel like you're constantly walking a tightrope in your marriage. You love your family deeply, but you're tired of being misunderstood, unseen, or dismissed. You're done settling for good enough and ready to become someone you respect. You've outgrown surface-level advice and want a real path to powerful, consistent change. You want to respond, not react. Lead, not chase. Build, not beg. This book is not for you if you're looking for tricks to fix your wife. You want quick hacks without doing the inner work. You think leadership is about control instead of connection. You'd rather blame than build. You want to keep pretending everything is fine while your home slowly drifts apart. What you'll learn inside. And Lead Like a King, you'll walk through the exact roadmap I've used to help high-performing men heal unresolved guilt, shame, and emotional wounds. Rebuild their marriage through ownership and consistent leadership. Reconnect with their kids even after years of distance. Stop reacting and start leading from clarity. Create lasting emotional safety without losing their edge. Align their internal world with the man they've always wanted to become. This isn't mindset fluff or another communication tip book. It's a raw, real, actionable path from silence and confusion to certainty, strength, and connection that lasts. Jason's story could be yours. Jason didn't need to become a different man. He needed to become fully himself. Unarmored. Present. Clear. Unstoppable. And so do you. You don't need more information. You need a framework for transformation, one built for men who lead, men who love deeply, and men who are done settling. Ready to claim the throne? Click the below to order your copy of Led Like a King, the roadmap to mastering marriage, deeper connection, and unstoppable leadership. https://www.leadlikeking.com/roadmap. No pressure. No promises. Just the truth, the path, and the leadership you were born to live. Your kingdom is waiting. Let's go, King.
About the author, Jeremy Roadruck, the kingmaker for men who refuse to settle, architect of masculine mastery, a voice of truth in a noisy world. Jeremy is a men's mentor, relationship strategist, and multi-time best-selling author known for his no-nonsense, results-driven, and surprisingly playful approach to fixing marriages, reconnecting dads with their kids, and turning everyday men into unstoppable leaders. He's not some ivory tower coach. He's a husband, father, 6th-degree kung fu master, international champion, hypnotherapist, neurostrategist, former factory worker, former soldier, former security guard, and ran a brick-and-mortar business for 17+ years. In other words, he's walked through fire and came back with the blueprint. Author of Led Like a King, Your Best Child Ever, The Kung Fu Kitties, creator of The Silent Throne, and The Self-Mastery Path. Consultant to high-powered, high-income earning men who want to win at home like they do at work. Jeremy turns guilt into strength, blame into leadership, emotional shutdown into real, lasting connection. He helps high-performing men master the 3 relationships that matter most: life, love, and business, in weeks, not years. If you're lucky enough to sit at his table, he'll hand you the sword and dare you to wield it like a king. Because life's too short for bad food, bad marriage, or bad business.
Since 1995, I've been helping individuals, couples, families reconnect with what truly matters. From high net worth leaders and entrepreneurs to everyday people seeking deeper connection, my clients have ranged in age from 3 to 94. The common thread? They've all felt the disconnect between outward success and inner alignment. They've reached a moment when they wanted more than just peace. They wanted to thrive. I understand this journey because I've lived it. My own path has taken me from the depths of childhood abuse across 2 different continents at 5 and 6 years old, through a troubled adolescence to a life of diverse roles. Factory worker, traveling Renaissance Festival worker, soldier, meter reader, security guard, software quality assurance test engineer, kung fu master, national, international champion, best-selling author, master hypnotherapist, as well as filing for bankruptcy, living in a tent in the woods for months, living out of my car, and being hospitalized twice for a collapsed lung. These experiences didn't just teach me resilience, they shaped my understanding of how we create meaning, navigate conflict, and transform our lives. I've learned that mastery isn't about perfection. It's about alignment with your own most authentic self and the courage to remove internal resistance. Through my Lead Like a King consulting framework, I've guided clients to uncover the unseen patterns that hold them back. My approach combines practical tools, compassionate guidance, and a belief that no one should settle for emotional chaos. The people I work with often carry invisible burdens, anger that simmers beneath the surface, wounds from the past that never fully healed, or a deep sense of disconnection despite their achievements. My role is not to judge or quote-unquote fix them. It's to help them see themselves clearly, release what no longer serves them, and craft lives and stories that they can feel at home in. What I offer isn't just insight, it's an unseen advantage. My work is designed to help people reclaim their lives quickly and quietly, with results that speak for themselves, whether it's repairing a marriage, building a legacy, rediscovering purpose. My clients leave with clarity, balance, and empowerment that ripples through every part of their lives. Mastery is not about achieving more. It's about coming home to yourself and leading your life with courage, wisdom, and connection. In a word, the problem I solve is misalignment. I help men who feel disconnected, powerless, and frustrated in their marriage, their leadership, their legacy, and align them with their true power, true purpose, and true presence. I help to align their actions with their values, align their leadership with their impact, align their relationships with deep respect, attraction, and trust. When a man is aligned with himself, everything changes. As I like to say, if you don't have your insides poking out of your outsides, you ain't broken. In one word, the solution I provide is mastery. I guide men to master themselves, their stories, and their games, so that they can lead their marriage, their family, and their legacy with clarity, strength, and certainty built on presence and playfulness. I've found that when a man masters his emotions, his presence, and his leadership, everything in his life aligns and becomes more effortless. So I invite you to check me out, check out my body of work. I am not shy. I'm the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet. You can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much everywhere, including podcasts. Just search on Jeremy Roadruck to see more about what I'm doing. And I encourage you, if this book speaks to you, please take a look at the roadmap, go deeper, get involved in the self-mastery path, come join the King's Circle. There is support, there is guidance, there is help. You do not have to figure it out all by yourself. There are no prizes given for inventing fire all on your own. Speed your life up, speed your impact up, get support, get alignment, get guidance. Do what I did, ask for help, and then take the help that's offered. You make it a fantastic day, and I hope we get to speak in person sometime soon. If you feel that you want to move forward further, farther, and faster, you can book one-on-one time with me at leadlikeaking.com/book-now and get 15 to 30 minutes on my calendar. So you make it a fantastic day, and I will see you when I see you.